In terms of, I didn't know that Cyrus was of Mede blood. So,
Yes, yes.
all right,
Yeah. It's just it's really not the most important thing. It's just, a little fun
information.
fact.
It's information. No, because there are multiple Dariuses within the reign and within the
Yes.
Medo-Persian Empire, and multiple Cyruses, if
Yes.
I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So
So,
you have to pay attention because it can get confusing.
correct.
So the Darius in this particular thing right here is not the Darius who gave them the decree to go back and build Jerusalem. It's
Correct.
not the same Darius.
Right.
Okay. So if history, it's the good thing about this in terms of these parts of it is that we don't have to hurt our heads very hard to know what happens, because we are living in the time where these things have already taken place. So we could even look in any history book and it's going to be
Right.
right there for us. So we
Right.
don't really have to hurt our brains here. You can fact check us by checking history. You don't even have to look in the Bible only. The Bible is showing you this, what was going on undercurrents, behind the scenes of
Hmm.
what is recorded history. And this is what Daniel is really doing, is he's trying to tell you that behind what's going on here, behind Daniel's life, the historical events, is an undercurrent. There's something else happening. And that's what the point is. And it hints at that by the first two verses. The first
Right.
few verses already tells you that there's something else going on.
Correct.
What is Nebuchadnezzar's target when he came there? You know what I mean? It wasn't just what the Assyrians did. So there's a group of people called Assyrians who came before Babylon.
Right.
And they took the northern kingdom of Israel. Israel was divided into two kingdoms at that time, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom had 10 tribes, and the
Right.
southern kingdom had two tribes. And so
Correct.
the northern kingdom had been taken into captivity by Assyria about 100 years prior. And the entire tribe of Dan was annihilated during that time. That is why when you're gonna your buddy here Daniel is going to tell you about, Daniel Signalman is going to talk more about that later on in Revelation, when he's talking about the tribes at the end. In Revelation, there's going to be an omission, and you're like, why is he not? He was annihilated. He was wiped out of history. Does not exist. So that's just a little Easter egg, you would say, right? A little Easter egg in the future, your future studies, is to just
Right.
remember a callback where the Assyrian kingdom, they annihilated the entire tribe of Dan. They took all 10 tribes of the north captive. And so when Babylon happens here with Judah and Benjamin, they make up the southern tribe under the name of Judah.
Right.
That now the entire country, the entire region of Israel was essentially empty. Just really very few people were left. Old people and sick people, people
Right.
of insignificance were left in the country. So it was like a reversal of, in Genesis chapter 12, God promised a man named Abraham. He was a star. He's the father of the faithful, father of God's people. Whether you are a physical Jew or whether you became a believer in Jesus Christ, he says, if you believe in me, you will become a seed of Abraham and heirs
Right.
according to the promise. All that is to say that that now this promise that I'm going to give you this land is almost like reverse. It's like, wait, you promised us to give this land, and now it's been taken away from us.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it's like it was a reversal of the whole thing.
Excuse me.
And just think of that. The idea that now it's reversed. God's promise, I'm going to give you this land, and now it's been taken away from me
Right.
by the enemy. And that's what happened in Genesis. God gave Adam and Eve the Garden of Eden, the entire earth, and it was stripped away from them by the enemy. Same thing that's happened here in Daniel. It was the completion of this of the devil's attack. Why? Because God made a promise to Adam and Eve that he also repeated to Abraham. He says, I'm going to send you a special seed, a special descendant that's going to crash this thing. I'm going to crush this head of this enemy, and I'm going to bless the earth. And so that is the undercurrent here. Notice why, and that's why Daniel chapter 1, the first few verses, read them for yourself, please. Look and see what Nebuchadnezzar's target really was. It was different than the Assyrians in a way, you know. His target was he went and he destroyed the temple.
Yeah.
And I'm snatching all the vessels in there. And where did he put the stuff? In his own temple. Babylonian temple was his God. Right. So we're already showing you that it wasn't just about political power. It's a religious, a spiritual statement. Like, your God is nothing. My God is reigning supreme, as a matter of fact. And so that is what's happening. Yes, tell me. Yeah.
I don't want to slow your momentum down, but because what I have done with the audience too, I have gone into other books. I don't think you can talk about the book of Daniel without talking about the book of Esther, Nehemiah, Ezra, Haggai. Is it Haggai? Haggai. I think it's either Zephaniah or Zechariah.
Yeah, it's
one of the two.
Yeah,
and or Jeremiah, or even Isaiah, the book of Chronicles, the second book, Chronicles, second Chronicles.
Yeah.
All right. So there is a section in Second Chronicles. I may be mistaken and confusing it with Jeremiah, but it's either Second Chronicles or Jeremiah. God refers to Nebuchadnezzar's father and sons as his servants.
Yes.
You understand? So
yes.
In light of that, and even though this is spiritual warfare, and even though it is, yes, Nebuchadnezzar was trying to say your God is not like mine. What does that say about, from God's perspective, where he prophesies? Can God prophesy? Yeah, I guess I'm not saying that wrong.
That's the whole. He's the one who's doing it. He's revealing it.
He's revealing it, right? So he tells his prophet who prophesies.
Right.
But God is telling you what's going to happen in the future. He refers to Nebuchadnezzar's father and his sons, which includes Nebuchadnezzar and Belteshazzar, and Cyrus as my servants. I just want your take on that, because of what you're saying in terms of the spiritual warfare.
So there are a few things happening. And so if you look at some of the words that are happening here, is that, notice the words that Daniel says to these kings. So God is telling you this. God is revealing this dream to you, Nebuchadnezzar, John chapter 2, so that you know what's going to happen in the end. So remember the statement, he says, I'm not going to do anything without revealing it to my servants.
Correct.
So although Nebuchadnezzar is not really a prophet per se, God is trying to save this man. Okay.
Correct. I agree.
He says, you quote in the beginning of your thing, he's not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. God is not the God of the Jews. God is not the God of Christians. God is the God of all the people that you said hello to in the beginning.
Yeah.
All right. So
exactly.
While he's trying to save you and I, he's trying to save our greatest enemy. Okay. And as much as we're going to hate this, he tried to save Hitler. So that's why he did certain things. He places people in positions to give them a chance to be saved. That's why he says, the statement is, he gave Nebuchadnezzar this. He says, I gave you the kingdom. I gave you honor. I gave you glory. I gave you dominion. I gave you all peoples, all language, everything. That's in chapter 4. That
Correct.
really okay, so guys, you just check it out for yourselves. And he's saying all of these things. God gave you this. Why? So that you will acknowledge, you will understand that I am the one who actually put you there, and that I am the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, that I'm the one who has control of this, who rules in the affairs of men. That's what he said. Right? So
Yes.
all of the
Yes.
things he said, that he repeated it to Belshazzar. Daniel once says, like he said, "Yo, Belshazzar, why are you acting like a fool? You rebelling your grandfather. I mean, you know your
Correct.
grandfather. What he
Correct.
did, he's converted. You witnessed the conversion. You heard the stories. Your mama told you, Queen Mother, who came out and said, hey, who told you to come call Daniel, she was there. That's your mama. That's Nebi's wife." He said, "Look, I was there." He became a bona fide grafted in Jew, a Christian in today's term,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so, and he said the same thing. He says, Belshazzar, you put there so that you would learn to be humble. But you didn't humble yourself.
My
Not
Lord.
only that, you went even further
Mercy.
than your grandfather and says, I am going against God. You said you went against God itself. And that's the theme, that's the undercurrent in terms of what's happening, the conflict that's happening in this book of Daniel is that they're attacking God. It's going against God, excuse me.
Hmm.
So he's saying, because you're doing this blatantly, although you were aware of all of this, you knew what happened.
Right.
You saw the evidence of it, and yet you still remain defiant. It's like a defiant child, right? You saw this. I told you the results. I told you what's going to happen if you touch the stove. I told you what you're going to do if you pick up the vase. And now it's broken.
Right.
And now I'm going to spank you because I told you, I warned you ahead of time. And
Right.
that's what God is doing. It's like, but now you said you refuse to be humble, you're pride. And then you're going to take God's holy things and toast other gods.
Hmm.
I'm going to take it away from you. So, um, all of that is really trying to say that everything is tied into stuff. It's going on. It's the undercurrent there that's happening is that it is an attack against God Himself. Because that's why Nebuchadnezzar went against the temple. He's actually attacking God. That's what he was doing. He's saying, your God is nothing. You, God, this God of Israel, who I don't know, ain't nothing compared to Dagon and all of that. And
Right.
Marduk. And, and Bel, the Babylonian gods, you're nothing. And God had to
Right.
say, well, let me show you, just like He did in Exodus, right? To the Pharaoh. And
Right.
I'm mentioning this because it's related. It's related. God was trying to save Pharaoh as well. That's why He gave him all those chances. But finally, Pharaoh was like, yo, I don't want nothing. He's like a Belshazzar.
Wow.
You understand? So, and that is tied into chapter 11. I know I'm jumping around, but it's all of these things are very important because these kingdoms that I'm mentioning is really what is chapter 11 is referring to. Okay, so
Okay.
the king of the north is talking about Syria, who
Hmm.
took the northern
Right.
kingdom, and Babylon, who took the southern kingdom, because Babylon actually defeated the Assyrians. So essentially, they replaced Syria.
Okay.
And what conquers, if you go down the whole kingdom, the list of kingdoms from the image, and in chapter 2 and chapter 7, they all represent the same thing, really, the king of the north. All of that because they have the same kinds of mentality. It's really like one thread. So that's why they're considered a unit. So
Okay.
the king of the north is represented by Assyria, by Babylon, by Rome, Greece too, because chapter 11 is kind of giving you a little bit of what's going on during the Grecian Empire. Just think of that. So don't let chapter 11 like stress you out with all of these details. Don't get tied up in that. All right. Like I said, I'm trying to tell you, it's not a history lesson. Just
Right.
understanding that chapter 11 is covering the same time, the same period, the same thing as these other visions that Daniel was having. It just started off. He started naming. He's saying, okay, you know what? There's going to be three more kings, and then there's going to be a fourth kingdom, and that's in
Right.
Persia. So when he's having this vision, this is the Persian Empire now. Okay, Babylon is gone already. This is Persia.
Right.
The Medes now, they secondary, they almost non-existent. Persian Empire was really the one empire. That's why the bear was lopsided, right? Because one was stronger than the other. The Persian Empire in history is the one. They were the largest empire. They're the ones who were the strongest. And so during the Persian Empire, that's what he's saying. These are going to be four more kings, and then Greece is going to come on board. There's going to be this mighty king that does this thing but then it's going to be divided into four. That's in the first verses there, right?
Right.
The first five verses, right? And
Right.
then after that, so now it's telling you don't. It's loosely some things that it's showing you, yes, this back and forth between the north and the south, and the south is represented primarily by the kingdom, by Egypt,
Okay.
okay, historically. All right. And so that is really, and that's important to say. Remember, I talked about Exodus and
Right.
Pharaoh. So it's really started there. Is the idea of this was a kingdom. Egypt was a kingdom who also enslaved this nation, and they're continuing to fight to get them back with the north and the south. So that's what it's all about. They're not the north and the south. They're not fighting each other just for the heck of it. You know what they're fighting over? The land in the middle, which is Israel. They want possession. They want control of this strategic position. It was in a very strategic location in the world, in terms of trade, in terms of everything. That's where all areas of the world intersects. That's why it was there.
Because you had the ocean. Well, you
Yeah.
had the
So
waterway. Plus,
the
you had in
waterways right
terms of
there, and then
travel.
you
Yeah.
go over to Greece and Rome. So although
Right.
Greece and Rome was kind of west, they're still considered north, because it's like west, northwest. So so that's what that is. And because it's followed the progression of the kingdoms. So although they were western, is still considered the king of the north, because they are the ones that took over that thing. They defeated the Greeks, who defeated Persia, who defeated Babylon. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And south is Egypt. So if you look at a map, I wish we could share screens and different things, that
Okay. Yeah.
you can show what it looks like, and that Israel is smack dab in the middle of these two, between Babylon and the northern kingdoms, Assyria and everything up there, and the
Yep.
western is still over there, and then Egypt to the south of it. And so the north and the south just keep fighting each other, but these fighting each other because they want Israel. Why? It's prime real estate. Prime real estate. That's really what it is. You control everything. You control if you control Israel, you control the world, because it's the intersection of everywhere.
Okay.
So that's why God prepared it for them. Why? Not for domination, but for, he made a statement in Isaiah, and I wish I had that the chapter and verse right now. You guys can Google this though. When he says, I have set you as a light to the Gentiles. This is in Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Um, and
Okay. I'll look for it.
that's why he placed Israel, he promised Abraham that land, because it was strategic, where now I can save the world. Remember, that is his goal. God loved the world. He's not willing that any should perish. And the way that he went about it was to put these promised people, Abraham and these people, in that strategic location where every part of the world intersects so that they can be a light to all of the nations that surround it. They're smack dab in the middle of that whole world. And when you're trading, when you're traveling from one part of the world to the next, you have to pass through them. And you have to meet the God of heaven. And that's the point. That's why the fight is. And when you're through in chapter 11, to be honest, I'm not going to waste time trying to go through every single verse of chapter 11 so you know all the
No,
historical.
I wasn't expecting you
Yeah.
to.
So really
Yeah.
just read history books and know what happened in, after Alexander's kingdom broke into 4 parts.